Well, this changes everything that could seriously shake up the U.S. housing market. President Trump recently outlined plans to crack down on big corporations, Wall Street firms, hedge funds, large institutional investors that have been scooping up single-family homes at scale. In short, the idea is to basically ban or severely limit institutional investors from dominating the residential housing market. So in the aftermath of this announcement, shares of some of these major industry players just dropped immediately. Blackstone, American Homes for Rent, Invitation Homes all saw their stock prices drop in the range of like 4 to 6%, billions of dollars, gone. And whether you love Trump or you hate Trump, doesn't matter. This proposal hits on a frustration that a lot of Americans share right now. With limited inventory in the housing market, families feel locked out of homeownership. So many of these institutional buyers have bought up all the homes, driving up prices. First-time homebuyers feel like they're constantly losing bidding wars. Investors like us, the small independent ones, can often feel like we're just competing against infinite money, when we are. So today I want to break down what this proposal actually means, whether or not it actually help anything. Will it help the housing crisis? And most importantly, how could this actually impact everyday investors? Because this isn't just about politics, it's about inventory, pricing, who gets to participate in the American housing market going forward, young families starting out wanting to buy their first home. So let's talk about the intention behind Trump's move here. You want to be as favorable as possible heading into the midterm elections. So over the last decade, but especially since the pandemic, institutional investors have aggressively entered the single-family housing market where we're talking about hedge funds, private equity firms, massive asset management companies. These are big companies with big money like Blackstone. And they don't just buy like one or two homes, they're buying thousands of properties. Sometimes even entire neighborhoods are all owned by Blackstone. And they're doing it with advantages that normal buyers simply don't have at all because of their deep pockets. They can offer all cash, no inspection contingencies, faster closings. So when a family making $90,000 a year tries to buy their first home, they're often competing with a corporation that views the house as just like a line item on a balance sheet. They don't want an inspection. Come on. So that's the core frustration that Trump is tapping into when he said people live in homes, not corporations. His argument is simple. Homes are for living first, investing second. And Wall Street has tilted the scales too far out of balance. So to be clear, this isn't about banning all real estate investing. This focus is simply on those large institutional buyers that dominate single-family residential housing markets, not mom-and-pop landlords, and not some small LLC. Not individual investors like myself or you, have a handful of rentals. The goal behind this is to restrict large corporations from purchasing existing family homes, changing an entire neighborhood, preventing bulk purchases that wipe the inventory right out of the market, reduce Wall Street's ability to turn American neighborhoods into empires, basically. In other words, this is aimed at the corporate hoarding, not entrepreneurship. But what does this mean for the housing market when we're looking at the bigger picture right now? Well, you probably already know we're in the midst of an affordable housing crisis thanks to a multitude of factors like low inventory, high demand, rising labor, construction costs, zoning restrictions, and so much more. But there's another layer here that happens to supply when these institutional investors enter the market aggressively. A few things tend to happen, a few key things. Prices go up. When a fund is willing to overpay slightly because they're playing a 30-year rent appreciation game, comps rise up. The comps in the neighborhood go up. That hurts buyers, smaller investors alike, who are trying to get into that market. Inventory tightens up. These homes could have gone to families or mom and pop investors who actually want to create a great home, or now they're totally removed from the resale pool indefinitely, because renting becomes the only option. Entire neighborhoods now shift from ownership communities to permanent rental zones. And Trump's proposal is trying to interrupt that cycle. From a buyer's perspective, the benefits are easy to understand. If institutional investors aren't snatching up homes left and right, then there's more homes available to purchase as primary residences. This could also result in prices growing at a slower, more sustainable rate. We've seen equity in homes exploding over the past few years. Why? Well, you're looking at it, and for many home buyers, that breathing room can make a huge difference. Well, now let's talk about investors like us. This is the part that Wall Street doesn't want to talk about, because while this proposal hurts massive funds out there, it could actually help small and mid-sized investors like myself, especially those focused on turnkey rentals. We'll dig into more of that in a moment. But first, could your financial advisor provide a plan to fully replace your income in the next 10 years without actually charging you any money for it? Could they do that? I'm going to say probably not. Now, if you trust the system and you want someone else to do all of your thinking and planning for you, a financial advisor can absolutely help you with that for sure. But if you want to build real independent wealth that's immune to the influence of Washington, D.C., Wall Street, and of course, all of the latest headlines, then you've got to take matters into your own hands. That's what Natalie and I did years ago. And we were able to break free from the paycheck dependency in less than 5 years when we did it. We used buy and hold real estate to actually accelerate that and do it. And whether you're starting with $500 or $500,000, it actually doesn't matter. You can actually start earning monthly passive income today through real estate investing as well. Now, if you're like us, you probably don't have a lot of time to do all of the legwork, to go out and find a good investment property, locate the neighborhoods, find great tenants, do all of that, find great contractors, maybe to build the property from scratch. That's why our partner Sedera Wealth can help. They can do all of that for you. They got over 20 years experience helping investors at all levels reach financial freedom through real estate investing. Their help is 100% free. So if that resonates with you right now, I don't want you to just sit there and think about it. I want you to go to our website and check it out for yourself. Go over to redacted.inc/wealth and book a free call with our friends over at Sedera Wealth. And when you're done, I want you to come back and finish this video knowing that you've taken significant steps in bettering your financial future. Now, we asked Addison, our go-to finance pro at Sedera Wealth on our team, to weigh in on this. And she said there's good news. She says, it's a game changer for balance in the market. She said with fewer mega buyers flooding in, inventory should actually open up, potentially easing competition, stabilizing prices in key areas. And for turnkey properties, we can actually snag better deals without bidding wars against these deep-pocketed funds that pay all cash and are actually overpaying for the properties, driving up the prices. Plus, when prices are driven up by institutional capital chasing yield, well, then you get lower cash flow. You get thinner margins. And we all know that prices have skyrocketed in recent years. And according to data from the National Association of Realtors, prices have surged 24% in the past 5 years alone. But a market that's largely owned by everyday Americans, individuals, small investors, is more rational, less prone to these sharp increases. And this creates a more fair and balanced market where Americans can actually afford homes, where they can buy and hold strategies, where they can thrive in those buy and hold strategies. This is much better for communities. It creates opportunities for responsible landlords who actually take care of the property. What the property condition looks like. Is the tenant happy in the property? Happy to live there? Happy to have their kids go to that school district? It creates a more balanced ecosystem. Because if you have these headless Blackstone institutional buyers, they don't give a rat's behind about who's in that property. Again, it's a line item on a balance sheet. So now critics of Trump's ideas say a few things. They say that these restrictions would lower home values, and it could lead to fewer rental homes that many Americans could rely on. A lot of people are saying this policy alone won't fix housing. Of course it won't. New construction, supply problems, zoning reform, it's all at the root of this housing crisis. And those are the key issues that need to be addressed if we really want to move the needle on this. But here's the key point I think people are missing. Two things can actually be true at once. It's true that this one move alone is not going to transform affordability and the struggles overnight. It's just one piece of the puzzle. But the Trump administration has promised aggressive housing reform in 2026 as we head into the midterm elections. Things like actually improve for Americans when we head to midterm elections because members of Congress and presidents actually want to do what they say they would do on the campaign trail. So we should expect to see additional policy announcements in the coming months. President Trump has been teasing and kind of promising that he wants to get rid of the income tax. I mean, can you imagine how transformative that would be? So get rid of large institutional investors buying up houses, get rid of the income tax. Game changer. It's also important to remember that there's not one real estate market, right? Certain markets could see more relief. Others will be largely unfazed by this move. Some analysts say that the institutional investors only represent a small percentage of the buyers. That's true. But in such a tight market, it matters. Plus, this change signals a bigger shift coming. Politicians across the spectrum are finally acknowledging something that regular people have felt for years. The American dream is like drifting away from families. Homeownership it's like, instead of like buying something in your late 20s or early 30s like you used to with starting a family, now they're waiting into their 40s. So it's becoming harder than ever to buy something. Wall Street's role in that shift isn't neutral. So when we take those big players out of the game, when we take Wall Street out of this game, it opens up the door for more reforms, more opportunities for investors who actually operate ethically. So at the end of the day, Trump's proposed crackdown on corporate home buying is tapping into a real structural issue that affects American families who want to enter the housing market, renters who are facing rising costs, investors who want fair competition in a balanced market. So for those of us focused on turnkey rentals and sustainable investing, this could be a net positive. We could see more inventory, better pricing, healthier markets overall. This isn't about eliminating investors entirely. It's about making sure the housing market still works for real people, not just balance sheets and institutions. Now, the president said more information on this will be coming soon in regard to additional housing affordability plans. His original post actually mentioned that he would be sharing more details when he speaks at the World Economic Forum later this month. So we'll be sure to keep our finger on the pulse of this situation and keep you updated on that. As for now, it's unclear what the next steps are. As always, proposals are likely to face legislative hurdles and congressional pushback, so it would be interesting to see what happens next on that front. But you'd have to imagine like Democrats would be on board with this because Democrats love to tax the rich, go after the rich, right? They can't figure out another way to like create prosperity in the United States. Their answer is tax Elon Musk. Okay. How many jobs has Elon Musk created? But okay, tax him. Like he's the problem. Okay. Really? Not the billions of dollars you send off to Ukraine or other corrupt governments around the world. Don't even get me started. So I think Democrats would be on board with this because, they don't want to give President Trump a win though. That's the thing as you head into the midterm elections, right? Because Trump would be signing it and he'd be like, that was Trump's idea, But Democrats normally would be totally behind this, absolutely interested in this plan for sure. It's just a matter of how many people he can get on board with this. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this topic. Do you think Trump's proposal is a good idea? Is there anything you'd change or any downstream effects that you anticipate? I'd love to hear if you think this is the right move, if it's going to move the needle at all. Drop me a comment below, and I will see you in the next video.